Welcome to day 2 of Stamp Camp, and today we're going to explore watercolor pencils. Now, I must confess, I'm a little intimidated by these.
Oh, but these are great watercolor pencils that are really easy to use. They're fun to play with, and they come in all the colors you need. Plus, we're going to show you lots of different ways to use them.
Okay, well, I'm with you.
Okay.
Come play with us. These are the watercolor pencils. They come in sets of 4 colors, just 4 colors. So yellow, red, green, and blue.
And each package has 9 pencils and a paintbrush with it. It looks like this. So you've got these 9 colors that complement each other, about in the same range of colors.
Right. Although there's always kind of a surprise. Like in this one, why don't you show the ends of the pencils?
So this one has got, this one is silver.
Right.
And then it's got these different hues of blues. There's a little bit of purple and blue in there.
I think a real help is the end of the pencils. That way you're going to see the colors, and, you know, it's kind of easier to see it in a bigger color. And then you have done something for us to make it easier.
Well, something that I did is I printed off this piece of cardstock with each one, and I printed out the numbers of the pencils.
And those are on the pencils themselves.
The numbers are on the pencils, because if you get more than one set, you don't want to get the sets mixed up. So now I know all of these come with this, and if you can scribble a little bit of the color next to it, they're easy to find that way. And I like to keep them in a Ziploc bag or something like that to keep each set together.
Yeah, just to do that. And they are a triangular shape, so it just makes it a little bit easier to hold them. Now, we have also added a sheet of watercolor paper. This is, and we did that, it's Teresa's fault. That's all there is to it. In the DVD, the Stamp Camp number 2, Teresa has a chapter on watercolors, and we're going to show you some of those projects today, and she does use some watercolor paper, so wanted to have that for you. So this is 9 by 12 sheets. There are 15 of them, and
it's 140-pound cold press watercolor.
Okay, now let's get into projects, because that's what we're here for. Okay, so we're going to go through the steps of some of the things, maybe not all of them, that you can do with the watercolor pencils. And this is from the DVD, and Teresa calls this she's doing a sunset background, and you're going to show us how to do this.
Just a little bit. It started. So here's that watercolor paper. I'm going to put it on my craft mat because I'm going to be using a paintbrush with that in a minute. And she took several different colors. It's a little bit hard for, I'm going to turn it so you can see it.
Good.
The several different colors, and she did gradations of colors. She's got a green, a little bit of a yellow green, and then a blue, and then she added a coral next. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to lay down my pencil so that I'm not drawing like straight down like that. I'm going to lay it down so that I could get the width of the pencil while I'm brushing, swiping across the paper like this. And the darker you make it, the more vibrant your color is going to be. So you can make it a little bit lighter, or you can, for more coloration, you can just be a little heavier when you're applying it. So I'm going to do that for about a ½ inch or so. And then I'm going to move to the next color, which is going to be this yellow. It's a really pale yellow, kind of hard to see, but I'm going a little bit over the color that I just hit, and then I go up onto the paper a little bit more. I'm sort of turning my pencil a little bit when I do it to keep my pencil sharp as I'm going along. Otherwise, I'll get a super big flat spot on one side, and then I'll have to sharpen it again. So I'll do that for a little ways, and I'm going to take another color. Just going to do one more. I'm not going to finish it, but because I'm going to show you what we do with the paintbrush next. So this is dry watercolor paper.
And you can see that it kind of has a texture because it's got a tooth to hold the watercolors themselves.
That's pretty typical of watercolor paper because it holds up well to the water. It doesn't disintegrate like a regular piece of cardstock might. Now I've got a cup here, collapsible cup, and I've got a kind of a wide paintbrush. I'm going to pick up some of the water, not too much, and then I'm just going to swipe it across to blend those colors.
And that's kind of a magic that happens.
Yeah. Get a little bit more water.
So you're not necessarily mixing your colors, you're just swiping your brush across, and then they kind of instantly dissolve.
They kind of instantly dissolve. It was already done down here on the blue, so it might not be mixing in as well as it would normally. You don't want to mess with it too much. I'm going to try it. And here you could even pull that color up and finish off if you don't want to put another color on top. But there, it blends pretty nicely.
All it takes, I'm going to lift this up just so I think you can see the colors a little bit better. So from the streakiness of the pencils into this really variegated coloring, that's just what happens.
Look, that's what the colors do. Watercolor pencils, when you get water on them, they're going to blend.
Okay, and what Teresa has done is to take her cardstock, do that blending as you see here, and then she's gone in and stamped. In this case, she used the Wildflower stamp set. And I think what I see here is that it works really better on a more solid stamp, even though these the dandelions here have fine lines.
They have a lot of detail, but if you were to stamp a greeting on there, it might be a little more difficult to get all of each word on there. So this is a little bit more forgiving.
So with the silhouette stamps, it just works. It's just very, very striking. And because we generally do the insides of our cards, this is how Teresa used it. So she took another smaller section, the same blending, and then just came in off the edge. So it works nicely.
It does. And what Teresa said is always work with if you're going to do this technique, work with a piece of paper that's a little bit bigger than you want, so you don't have to worry about getting the edges perfect.
Sure.
And then just cut it down to the size that you need.
Plus, that way you can have extra to do other things with.
Right.
So,
and I think you must have said that that's the grapefruit paper pack.
I didn't, but I'm glad you did.
Well, there you go. It's one of our newer paper packs. It's a really fun paper pack to work with.
Okay, so step 1. Now let's go to step 2. This also is from the DVD, and Teresa has done a different technique, that of coloring in.
Right. First of all, she used the Serendipity stamp set here.
Yeah, let me show you.
So it's got these big flowers and great big scroll work, which is just beautiful.
You. This is a favorite of mine. Just beautiful images plus some words, so that comes in handy.
And what's great about these is that some of the images are really great to color in.
For instance,
here's the watercolor paper, and Teresa stamped it with something from the Serendipity stamp set.
Right.
And then here she started out by taking, this is from the Reds pencil set, and it's a number 119, but all of that information is on the gallery. It tells you which colors were used on each project. And then she just started coloring it in. And you can use a light touch, like I believe it was a light touch on most of these petals, and then later in you can go back and hit them again with a little bit heavier touch. But if you start light, you do a few like this, and this is the fun part to me. Real easy just to color it in like that. And as I'm looking at this, here I was doing each one. All I had to do was go over the whole thing like that. Okay, it's way easier.
Yeah, way easier. So you don't have to stay inside the lines at this point.
There. So that's a lot easier. You get it all colored in. And then you take, I've got a paintbrush here. I'm not going to use the craft sheet because this is just pretty much going to stay on the paper. I've got my cup of water. Get a little bit of water, and you just go over it lightly with a little bit of water, and everything just blends right in.
Okay. Now to get a darker color.
Right. So I blend it in like that, and then while the paper is wet, I can go back in with my pencil and add the highlighting that I want to the back. And just push a little bit on there, get a little bit more, and a little bit more water will blend that right in.
Okay.
Just like that.
So that becomes quite easy to do,
really,
it looks like.
You just play with it, add more to it. Another thing that you can do here is, this will really get you an intense color, is if you wet your brush, get a little bit of the color right from the pencil lead, like that, and brush that on, and you can see how much more color it gives you.
We're getting closer to see as you're adding that darker color. Oh, I can see.
Yeah, you get that right off the lead like that, and then put it right down where you want it.
Do you know, I never would have thought of going directly the brush to the pencil.
Sure. And it's fun. The darker colors are well, there you can see it.
Yeah.
It really gives something. And that's easy. It's fun to do. You can sit there and do that while your kids are talking to you in the background, no problem.
Okay, going back to our finished card. So you can see all the colors that were used, and Teresa has also used the botanical etchings paper on this, and just had this top part. I also like how she added the words down at the bottom with these little flags coming in from the right-hand side.
That's a nice touch, and a little bit of bling, one on each of those little flags.
And then on the inside, let's see what she did. Okay, so she added yet another piece, similar in size. Actually, it's a little bit larger, and more of the serendipity stamping.
So that's from one of the design toolkits.
It is.
To cut that out, and then she matted it again with a little blue to pick up some of the blue that she added to those butterflies.
And as a matter of fact, this too is part of the design tool. Right. So just creates a really nice setting for this watercolor image. Now, we have more. You don't have to use watercolor paper. Here we have a card topper, and this is from the postcard set, which is pretty new. And
is this the chocolate or the ebony? Or
this is the chocolate.
The chocolate Color Me.
Yeah.
This is great. So you've got if you're not familiar with Color Me, you've got this raised portion which is embossed, and that comes right on the Color Me card toppers.
And I'm opening a package for you.
And then you can color them in, you can mist them. There's all different kinds of things you can do with that.
So here's what that's going to look like. And in doing the coloring, Teresa did the same process that you did. Actually, Teresa didn't do this. But you color it just exactly as you were doing.
You use them dry. You use the pencils dry. So you would actually color each one of those in. And if you go over the Color Me raised portions, that just wipes off with a paper towel. That's no problem. But you color them in, and then you use a wet brush afterwards to just blend it.
So it's nice to have another coloring agent, and you can really see on the flowers how it's more shadowy into the center, so more intense color was placed there. On the top of the greetings, it tends to be a little lighter in this version and going a bit darker, as you can see on the E's and the R.
You could I could see doing like a rainbow effect the way she used the different colors for that sunset look that we saw.
You could do that. Now, speaking that card toppers offer one way, here is something rather spectacular, I believe.
This is from a Color Me ebony paper pack.
Yeah, let me show you. This is
the nostalgia.
The ebony nostalgia, and this is one of the 6 sheets that are inside, and that's what was used to create this marvelous page.
It looks like apple blossoms back there, just apple blossom springtime. That's what it made me think of when I looked at it. And I colored in each of the leaves, which there really wasn't that much to it, because all I did was color the leaves, the stems, and a little bit of a different color right in the center of the blossoms. And
so leaving the blossoms white.
Yeah.
So it looks like you did a light color all over the leaf, and then a darker color.
A little bit darker in the center.
In the center.
Right.
It's beautiful.
And then I used a paintbrush on them just a little bit to blend them together. It didn't really take very much time.
But the glorious part of this is right here. We'll back up just a little bit, and you can see these are vellum leaves. I would never in my lifetime have thought of doing this.
Well, it just, I don't know. I wanted to put a little vellum on there. I don't know what struck me. Sometimes you think of something that you have laying around. And there was a piece of vellum, and so I took it, and this is with the fresh cut stamp set.
Right. I just wanted to get into those leaves so that you can see these also have some stickles, it looks like,
on the gold stickles right
on the center veining. Yes.
So I embossed. I used the fresh cut stamp set, and there's a stamp on there. There it is, with a tri-lobed leaf on there.
Okay.
And I stamped that on vellum like this, and I did several of them. I did some of these, and I did some of the singular leaves too. After they were stamped and embossed in black, then I just took my pencils and I started coloring them in.
You know, I would not have thought that the pencils would stick to the vellum. For some reason, I just wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, it sticks on there. It doesn't stick on the embossing, and you have to press a little bit more, but it definitely goes on there. So I colored most of the leaf in with this darker green, and then I added a little bit of the yellow, and these are all from the green set. So in that one set you get a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green, and the next color I'm going to show you, it's also a green, but it's sort of it's got a little bit of a blue in it, so it's kind of teal, and I put that right in the middle and on the stem line right there, just right in the middle. Now right now it sort of looks like it's drawn all over, and I don't want the drawn look, I want the painted look. So then I wet my brush a little bit.
I'm going to slip a white piece of paper underneath just to be able to see that.
And then I just sort of blended it. When you're working on vellum, you don't want to paint on it too much because it's going to buckle anyway, and for the leaves I just kind of thought that was a neat look anyway. But,
wow.
And it just sort of blends together.
That is so pretty. And then
I cut them out.
and then added them in a cluster overlapping this photo.
And lots underneath, over the ribbon, all over the place. So there's lots of them in there. And then just added a little bit of gold stickles down the center.
Now I can see the curling in person. I'm not sure that you can see it. And
it does that naturally because of the water. When you get water on vellum, it sort of buckles.
That is just beautiful. So when you glued them down, you were just pretty much gluing the base of the leaves?
Right. I zotted them. I just put a few zots right down the center of the leaves so that the edges would stick up and you'd get that look that were they look like real leaves a little bit.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, we're not done. Here is another technique. This is a salted, and we're going to do the first part of it, and then this is the last part of it, but it takes time to dry, so we're not going to be able to show you every single part of it.
So here's a piece of that watercolor paper on my craft mat. And from the blues and the red set, there's a lot of blue on here and there's a lot of purple on here. And the way to do that is, like I showed you before, you want to lay your pencil down, so you're actually going to be going like that to get it colored all over the place. Then you want to get a nice little spritzer and spritz the heck out of it. So you really want those colors to blend.
It really needs to be saturated, doesn't it?
You can see the more water you can see as the little pools go, they're blending together. It works great on watercolor paper. This really is, lots of water.
Lots of water. And then you take some salt, and Teresa uses sea salt. I was experimenting with kosher salt and some other kinds of salts.
And I can see right when you put it on there, it did change the look. It made these little puddles like right behind each little grain of salt.
Now this is the part where you really want this to dry. And unfortunately, it's going to take overnight.
Right. And Teresa says you don't want to use a heat gun. You want to let it dry naturally. And what will happen is as the salt dries, it pulls up some of that color with it. And so you get this effect.
This is what you get. So you can see those globules, and this is also something you can't necessarily control. When that paper dries, and it will go flat, you'd simply rub off the salt, as Teresa has done on this one.
That's a fun look, and I don't think that's intimidating. I think that's easy.
Yeah, I think that's easy too, and fun. And then Teresa used one of the little stamps. This is a hello stamp, and went onto a small area, because if you're going to take the time to do this, you really want it to show.
You want it to show. I love that there's just 3 little nail heads up here. They're so cute.
And down here on this little banner that was stamped with an old-fashioned hello, which is the little words that come on this. On the inside, she used the typewriter, which is another small stamp, and you're my type of friend.
This is great. She mats everything, which makes it look just extra special. Right. This is on the Batik paper pack.
It is. And this is, you can see another of the salted watercolor paper.
That gives kind of a tie-dye look.
It does. Yeah. I do have to tell you that this Batik paper is almost sold out, so just want you to know that.
But we actually have a new paper pack that's got these colors in it coming up pretty soon.
Just to terrorize them? Is that what you're doing?
You'd be able to replace it.
Here is another version, and that's what Teresa does, that I so appreciate about her in the DVD, is that she doesn't give you just one look, she gives you 2. So this is another of the salted look, and this one is using the 4 Seasons stamp. And, you know, I think I just lied. I think that this is from the masculine.
Yes, it is. That's from the masculine set, which is great because it's got these little rings and gears in the trees. It's very cool. Now, am I mistaken? Is this part of the fancy lattice die cut?
I think it is, actually. I think you're right. Yes, just cut out in parts there.
Right.
And the Celebrate is also part of that stamp set. So you can see that the same stamp was first inked, then set onto a scrap piece of paper and then stamped here to get those more muted images.
Yeah, those shadowy images. But then there's that technique of gradiated or graded
with the salt in the background. So very fun. And then on the inside, okay, I just want to do this because I love what she does with color. So orange is a predominant color on the outside because of the paper.
Right, and that's the happy...
it is Happy Days.
Happy Days paper pad.
But on the inside, she only has the
blues and greens,
into the watercolor pencils. And again, she's overlapped the Happy Birthday stamp with one of the trees in that masculine set.
It's a beautiful look.
Yes,
that looks like it was fun to make, too.
Yeah, it's very neat. So that's fun. So we're not done. We have yet another little technique. Now, you talked about taking the paintbrush and putting it onto the...
putting it actually onto the lead. Sure. So you can use it to actually get a spattered effect, which I can show you.
Right.
And then this is the fresh cut stamp set and the birthday greetings stamp set. And then each piece was stamped and then cut out, or probably
colored first,
then painted, and then cut out to accent. But the thing that you're looking at here is this backdrop, which is just beautiful. And so you can take a piece of cardstock. I have watercolor paper here. This works too.
Okay.
And I'm going to grab kind of a darker color so we can see it. And I've got a paintbrush and some water. So here with my paintbrush, I'm going to get my paintbrush wet.
You know, I'm going to bring in another craft sheet because we do have two on our table.
That's fine. That'll work. Get a little water. Now you're going to get some of the, right from the end of that, I'm just going to do it like this. I'm going to hold it over the pencil and I'm just going to start spattering like that.
Okay.
And get a little bit more water.
Let me hold it up so you can see what's going on.
You can get some really interesting little spatters,
I see that.
Right from the pencil.
Okay, and that's what Erica did to create this card.
Right.
So we have seen it on vellum, on cardstock, on card toppers.
Right. We've seen it, I'm going to show you that we've drawn on it like this and then painted over it so that you can get it blended.
Right.
Another thing is that sometimes I will just take the color right from the pencil like that and paint with it like that.
Okay.
You can get the paper wet first.
Oh, we didn't show that.
Like that. There's a little bit of a yellow in there. But anyway, get the paper wet and then you can draw on it like that or paint with it.
So you could have it stamped and then put water on it? Okay.
Sure. Stamp it, then put water on it, then you can get it wet, paint it in, and if you want to blend it a little more, you can do that. Like that. And then if you need a little bit more highlighting, you can go right back on and add a little more and make it a little darker. You can really get it dark when the paper is wet. That's what I like about it.
Oh, interesting.
So you can go and then use that wet brush to blend it into your other colors. The blending, to me, is the fun part.
Okay.
So
it gives, and I guess another thing, too, is that with the pencils, they're going to last. I mean, you're going to get some longevity out of these. So lots of techniques, as you promised. Easy to do, so I'm much less intimidated now.
See you tomorrow.